Hey, everybody. Hello. Happy May. How is everyone today? I am coming to you today, May 1st. This is the first video of Alive in May every day. So every day this month, 31 days, I will be coming live to you right here in this page. For right now, the first week, I'm going to do different times, also to give people a chance to see things, see Catch Live in different parts of the country and the world, etc., and see what works out best because we have 31 days together to do this and figure it out. I don't have specific topics, but I will be sharing places. There are places for you to post topics if you want me to address them pinned on this page, pinned at the top of the page. So you can find that there. So now to get started, let me tell you guys who I am. I am Patty Diaz. I am the founder and happiness coach with a magical twist here at Blue Moon Manifestations. I am obsessed with helping you amplify your happiness, live life unapologetically on your terms, and achieve absolutely everything that you desire. I do this by helping you to develop a resilient mindset, manifest intentionally instead of by default, and develop an overall sense of happiness and well being, regardless of what is going on around you. So, if that sounds like something that resonates with you, if you want to learn more about that, if that is exactly what you're looking for, you have found the right place. I am here to help you and serve and do everything I can to get you to that place in life and help you become the absolute magnificent future version of you. But in order to become the future version of you, we have to know where we're starting from, right? So that is what I'm doing today. I am sharing with you my origin story, how I got to where I am right now in this, in this version, doing what I'm doing right now, because I've lived a long life of stories and transformations and changes and pivots. But I'm talking about this right now to get me to be here and help you guys and how I accomplish that. I did write notes to keep myself on track and not ramble on forever. So you will see me refer to those. So, and I will also take a drink because it's kind of warm here today. So welcome. I hope you guys all are having a fabulous day and getting ready for a fabulous weekend. If you are catching this on the replay, please let me know in the comments by typing in hashtag replay and where you are watching from, because I do like to see, it's very cool to see how far this reaches or where it ends up. It's one of those little tidbits that fascinates me. So let me know where you're watching from. I will come back and say thank you and wave at you and say hello. So now that I've told you what I do, who I am, let me tell you how I got here. Because we all have this story in us. It's individualized for everybody and different for everybody. But I will start with the question because it did apply to me is, have you ever felt like your life just didn't fit? It didn't fit in the way that you felt. It didn't fit the things that you enjoyed. It just felt off, like a piece of clothing or something that you're always just kind of twitching in and moving around. That it's just not right. It's not comfortable. That's how I felt about, let's see, what is it now? I've been here almost 6 years. So about, I mean, definitely the last 6 years before I moved back. So 7 to 8, between 7 and 9 years ago, like those last 2 years before I got back to California, was really the point where I was just feeling unsettled. I was feeling unhappy. I felt like I was having to, or I felt like I was just going through the motions. I was trying to make myself fit into a life I did not love, is what I wrote down on my notes. And not just one aspect of it, my relationship, the job that I had, where I was living geographically, all these things I was trying to make fit. I was trying to make the best of. And every year or every month, it's like, oh, it'll be better. We'll improve. We'll get things going. We'll get on track. And every year it just felt worse and worse. It fit less and less. I felt more and more depleted, drained, unhappy, unmotivated. And that's where I was. That's what catapulted. That's where things had to change. I just could not go on in that same direction anymore, because I was at least able to see that it was getting worse. It was getting worse, and it was not going to improve without some kind of drastic change. So the decision that I made to switch and change things up was to end the relationship that I was in and move back to California here to be near family. That's the calling that I was feeling. And those are two pretty big decisions combined into one. So they're pretty big and scary, but that's what needed to change, because I could not get to where I needed to be emotionally, mentally, financially, anything at all, loving myself, feeling good about myself, staying there in the relationship and geographically being removed from my family. That was wearing on me. That was something that I really did miss. And I was trying to fulfill in other ways with friends and, the family of my boyfriend, getting to involved with them. And it was great, but it could not replace what I truly wanted. I wanted to be back by my family. It's been about 12 years that I had lived geographically apart, where we were half the country away. I was living in the Midwest at the time, and everyone pretty much was back here in California. So that was the decision, to end my relationship and come back to California. The final straw that got me to make that decision, as I was telling you before, going down that like when the swirl down the drain, just kind of going further and further down that swirl, was that I was not being treated. I was not being treated like I deserved or wanted to be treated. And I don't mean this in a physical sense. For my personal story, I don't mean physically I was just not being acknowledged. I was not being heard. I was not being respected or spoken to in the way that I wanted to be and that I deserved to be. So that is the thing that kept popping up every time an argument, or every time I made a suggestion, or every time I wanted to speak my mind, I wanted to give my perspective, I was just not being heard. And I was just, basically being told, that's it. I'm done talking about this, and that's it. So that just was definitely what welled up inside of me. And I came back to the West Coast, not in California, but up in Washington, to visit family. And then I just knew I had to be back around family. And it was a pretty difficult, very turbulent emotionally transition period. But that's the decision I made. The final straw was that I knew and I acknowledged and realized that I was not being treated like I deserved to be, and bottom line, like I wanted to be treated. How did I start? What was the thing that I did? I made the decision, was the first thing. I did decide I'm moving back home and I'm breaking up, ending the relationship that I was in. And so while visiting family up there, I told my boyfriend flat out, when I come back, because it was an extended visit here, when I come back, we're not going to be together anymore. I don't know what it'll look like in the living arrangement right off the bat, but we are not going to be together, and I will be moving back to California. That was one of the most difficult, in the sense of not nice things being said, and just the progression from there that was it. That was my stake in the sand. I had to make that decision public, make it known. I could not live with this anymore. It gave us both time to realize, okay, I'm going to have to come back to this situation, but it's not going to look like it did before. I don't know what the transition was going to look like, but that it wasn't going to go back to what it was before I came to visit family. So those are the things I started with. I was honest. I said what I had to say, and I said what I would be doing. Coming back to California, I don't know how, I don't know what it's going to look like, but that is what I'm doing. I put my house up for sale when I did get back to Illinois. I put my house up for sale, and I figured out where I would be living when I came back. I would be renting a room from my aunt. So I did not have to come up with first and last deposit. I didn't have to buy furniture. I didn't have to do all that. I had a landing place. Didn't know how I was going to get there yet. This is where I was, Illinois, in an unhappy situation, and I was headed to California, and that's where I was going to land, and that's all I knew. That is absolutely everything I knew, but those were the steps that I started with. Then I gave notice I was working for the school district and I gave notice and I said, I will be here this entire school year. I won't leave before the end of the school year, but I will not be back next school year. And that also solidified it more. That's a little bit making a little bit more real. I have given notice at this job, and that's it. They're going to be looking for a replacement for me for next year. So those are tangible action steps that I took and I did, not knowing how the end result was going to be. And it was scary as shit, let me tell you, because not knowing how I was going to get halfway across the country, not knowing how I would pay for it, not knowing if my car would make it at the time. I couldn't stay there. I couldn't stay there. So whatever it was, it would have to be made. And those are the initial steps, like I talk about in manifesting, the action steps. You don't have to know, because I didn't know, but those are the steps I took to start off with. What did I have to release? What did I have to let go of after making these steps? I had to release the belief that was so ingrained in my brain that I had, you will hear me say this a lot when I talk about my story, the belief that I was living with at the time was that I have made my bed and now I have to lay in it, which basically was me telling myself I have to make the best of this situation. I have to make the best of where I'm at. I have to figure out a way to make it work. I have to settle for the things that the way that I'm wanting to be treated, the goals that I wanted to achieve that I was not being supported in. I have to find a way to make this work. I am here. I have made the decisions to get here. And so here you are, girly. Now you got to live with it. You're a grown up. You made the decisions. This is life. It's not a fairy tale. And so that was the biggest belief that I lived with that kept me there and that I had to release bit by bit, that I had to make the best of it. In making these decisions, in taking these steps, it cost me things I had to give up that, these changes that I was making were not going to be just, oh, happiness and rainbows. This is great. I'm just going to float across the country to California. It cost me several things. It cost me my house. That was the first house I had ever purchased on my own. Still the only one, because I have not bought a house back here in California. I had to give up my house, my identity of being this homeowner, and that I got to make decisions and I could make it look however I wanted and all these things, but it was too much for me, at least out there in that situation that I was in. I lost my belongings. When I made that decision to come back, I knew I would be landing in this little room. That's all I had, with one tiny portion of a storage shed that my mom had at her rental property that I would have access to, but it's not large by any means. So I had to give up all my belongings. I sold every piece of furniture that I had because I would not be starting out with furniture here, and I was not going to pay to bring it over here and store it. So it cost me my house. It cost me my belongings. It cost me my friendships, because I had made absolutely phenomenal friendships when I lived out there in the Midwest. With the school that I worked at, with activities, I learned how to knit. I learned how to garden. All these things, these relationships that I had built, that I felt close to these people. They were my support system while I was there. It cost me the physical portion of the relationship, because I am actually still friends with the majority of people that I made friends with in Illinois. It looks different because of being virtual and calling and texting and all these things, but it cost me that physical connection. It cost me that being able to do those things, because that's where I got my joy. Because the situation I was living in did not give me any kind of joy. The joy came from the interactions with my friends, going to the knitting groups, going to the cookouts, going to the baby showers and all these things, and being part of the biking club where we would bike around town on Fridays and then go find something to eat. Those connections, it cost me, but I knew it was still for a better end, and that it would just look different. So it cost me these things, and it cost me my space. I went from a story and a half house with 3 bedrooms, 3 acres, mind you. I had 3 acres of land out there. I had horses. I had dogs. All of these things that were mine that it's like, oh, I'm a homeowner. I have these things. I have this space. And it cost me all of that. I gave it all up. I had to get rid of them. I had to find new homes for my horses. And all this was very heart-wrenching. It was truly one of the hardest years. I think to date, the hardest year of my life, from when I made that decision to when I actually got the car to come back to California. It was absolutely heart-wrenching. But knowing now that all that turmoil, all those emotions, all those things that I lived through, I now look back on and say, I survived that shit. That got me here. I can tell other people that it is possible. I can show them that there is light at the end of the tunnel and there is a whole new life. But it is not going to be easy to get there. It's not going to be cake and rainbows and frosties and all these fun things. It's going to be hard work, but it is possible. Not only did I know it because other people have done it, I can tell people now that I have done it. I have made this transition. I have experienced this difficult BS and I've made it to the other side. And now I'm working on the next thing. It's not as chaotic, but I'm now improving myself instead of feeling like I have to settle, feeling like I have to make the best of it. A friend of mine, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but a friend of mine back here in LA, when I was telling her this story shortly after we met, that I felt like I had to make my bed and live and lay in it now, her response to me was like, dude, don't you know you could just buy a new damn bed? If that bed doesn't fit, if it doesn't feel good, if it's lumpy and has a big gap in the middle, buy a new damn bed. And that was it. I wish I had the clarity, but of course, everything comes to you at absolutely the perfect time. So I'm here to tell you, if you're trying to make your life fit, if you are trying to make the life that you're living fit, even though it doesn't fit and it doesn't feel good, and maybe you're feeling like I was, where you made your bed, I've made my decisions, now I have to lay in it and make the best of it. I'm here to now tell you, buy a new damn bed, make it fit, find one that actually works. Don't be like the Goldilocks and the Bears where, this one's too big, but oh, this one's too small. Buy a new bed, make a new situation for yourself. And let me get back on track so I don't go on too much of a tangent. So those are the things that cost me. Those are the things that I had to give up in order to get here and become the person that I am now. And who did I have to become? That's the next question. Who did I have to become in order to get out of that situation, in order to move out here to California and better my life and move into the direction that I was destined, that I wanted to do? The things that were calling me were no longer back in the Midwest. I had to become the person who made my happiness and what I wanted the priority, not settling for letting other people, someone else make the decisions for me. I had to make my wants and desires at the top of the list instead of at the bottom or the middle. It basically is the same analogy of taking care of yourself before taking care of someone else. Like with the airplane and they're going through all the training, they say put the oxygen mask on yourself before helping someone else. Making myself and my wants and my desires priority was one of the things that I had to become. I had to become that person that was like, I don't care what everyone says. I don't care if they say it's not possible. I don't care if they say it doesn't make sense. That's what's calling me. And that's what I need to focus on, what I want. I had to become the person who went after what I wanted, not only making them the priority, but going after it. I don't know how it's going to happen when I'm living in Illinois, how I'm going to get, what is it, 2,000, 3,000, I don't even know, miles back. So I had to become the person who went after what I wanted and figuring out what that was. Because when I was in this turmoil, all I knew was I didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't want to be in that situation. So what did I want? The first bit of clarity, back my family, back in California. And then what's the next thing that I wanted? So step by step, I didn't have the whole path laid out. I didn't have the whole map printed, but figuring out along the way what it is that I wanted and going after it, because now that was a priority. Not settling for what other people said I should do, or not listening to other people's advice, as well-meaning as it may be, that this is what you should be doing, or this is how, you know, you can make things better and maybe not feel so bad about where you're living or what situations you're in. I had to become the person, and in that year, which was that I talk about being the hardest year, I had to become the person who would not be bullied, who would not be manipulated, and who would not be guilted into staying, because that was a thing. It was definitely a thing I had to overcome, because I was very, I guess conditioned is really the word that I would use. But okay, all right, I'll make it work. Okay, you're right. I'm being selfish. Okay, I want to voice this. I want to talk this out, but you're done with the conversation. Well, okay, I guess I'm done, you know. So I had to become the person that would no longer do that, that would stand up for myself. And a lot of that was not pretty. A lot of that involved, you know, very confrontational conversations, arguments, discussions that now I would not handle that way, but I didn't know better then. I knew I couldn't be that person anymore. And that's how I was evolving. That's how I was shedding that skin of the person that I no longer wanted to be, so that I could grow into new skin. And then finally, what mindset shifts did I have to make to get here? I had to focus, focusing only on what I wanted, even though I didn't know how it was going to happen. Just briefly, so I don't go into too much, you know, dialogue, I guess. The car that I had was good. It was functional, but it was not in the greatest shape. And knowing I'd be doing a lot more driving when I got back to California, not knowing how I was going to pay for it to get in, actually get out back here to California, not knowing how I was going to afford the trip, all these things, if I was going to have enough money with what I'd sold to get there and stay on my feet until I got a job here. All these things, I didn't know all that, but I had to focus. I'm going back. I'm going to live at my aunt's house. I'm going to see my family all the time. I'm going to be around them, and it'll work out. It'll be fine. It will come to me as I need it. And I had to, the mindset shift I had to make also was, let's see, what did I write? That I did not know how it would happen. And the timing, right? Because I did have money that I'd put aside, but okay, not worrying about having to find a job right away, or else, you know, the end of the world is coming. I could not focus on that. I had to seriously train my brain, just focus on the next thing. The next thing is getting a car. And I was able to get a car. My friend sold her car. I did have to ask for help at the time. My mom had to help me out with getting that car and with what I sold, and got rid of the car that I had with. So I had to ask for help and get in that position that, oh God, here's, you know, everyone's going to think I failed. Here I'm asking to help be bailed out by my parents and to help me this and that. That's all bullshit. That's what parents do. They're there for us when we need them to be. So I had to overcome that and get past that. Oh, what's this going to look like? Oh, what people, you know what? It didn't matter. When I was back here, I had family that I hadn't seen in years that didn't even ask me questions about how I got back. Oh, it's so good to see you. I'm so glad you're back in California. Everybody's close together. You can come to barbecues now. You can come to the family reunions. I'm back by my nephews, and I can have fun with them. And I still get emotional. You may be able to tell. I still get emotional about that, because it was just such a big accomplishment. And knowing that I was able to do that and survive that horrificness, chaos and confrontational year, from deciding that I was leaving my relationship, getting out of Illinois, and coming back to California to be with family. Once I made that my singular focus, then everything else came together as it needed. Sometimes it was at the last minute. Sometimes, a lot of times, it didn't look pretty at all, but that's how I got here. That was my singular focus. And then once I got here, Then I started focusing on the next thing, getting the job. Then I got the job that I wanted. I manifested that job that I wanted. Then I started wanting to diversify, and I started with workshops, vision board workshops. And then from the vision board workshops, people were asking me, hey, and I started thinking about coaching because I started seeing that come up, and I got coaching. And I'm like, I think I'm being called, this is what I want to do. So all these things came at the perfect time because I continued taking the steps. And when I got to the point where I didn't have clarity, I had to focus, find that laser focus of what is the next thing? What's the next thing that I'm focusing on instead of what I don't want? So I've almost at about half an hour, 25 minutes. I did not want to make this like a whole hour dialogue. I just wanted to give you, those of you who have not heard it, or those of you who are new to the page, new to Blue Moon Manifestations, what my story is, why I'm here, why I am so obsessed with helping you guys live life unapologetically on your terms and achieve everything that you desire, because I have been at the bottom of that barrel, and I have been looking up and saying that light up there looks so small and so far away. But guess what? I got there, and I'm still getting there to the next level. I will continue for the rest of my days moving to the next level and figuring it out and falling down the times that I fall down and stumbling and having the unperfect, unpretty moments. But that's okay, because I know I have survived 100% of the crap that has come my way. I have overcome 100% of the challenges and obstacles that have been presented to me, and I am better for it. For each and every single thing that I have overcome, I have had something else 100,000 million times better take its place. So I'm here to tell you it's possible. I'm here to tell you that I would love to help you, and in whatever way that works for you and that you need. And I ask, if there's someone that you think will benefit from this story, that needs to hear this story, either tag them in the comments below or share the video out, invite them to like the page, and let's go through this journey together. So that's my live a day in May for May 1st. I will be back tomorrow. If you want to get the notifications to know when I go live, I believe with this new format, I'm not sure where it's at, but there's 3 dots somewhere up on the screen up there, and you can click on that and click on get live notifications or get notified when this page goes live, however it's worded. Click on that and you will get that notification when I go live. But every single video will be available here on replay, and I invite you guys to tune in. And if you have a topic that you would like me to talk about, go to the pinned post here on the page and jot down a topic, jot down an issue that you're struggling with. If you don't want to post it in the comments, please feel free to message it to me, and I will talk about it. So that's it. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys every day in May. Bye, guys. Take care.